the people of color who perform opera are not, and this is my opinion, I don't think they're properly represented on the stages in opera in Canada.
The emotions are so high, the stakes are so high in opera.
Because opera is more ancient than film. And to be honest, there are things that film could learn from opera. Oh, oh, what?
Hey, I'm Michael Mori, Artistic Director at Tapestry Opera. Welcome to our new series featuring exciting stuff happening in the larger arena of opera. Tapestry is coming to you from Toronto, the historic lands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Wendat nations. Today we get to talk to Darren Fung and Andrew Moodie, two award-winning artists who've created and produced a powerful short opera film, I Can't Breathe. This is Tap In by Tapestry Opera. Check out other show, concert, and film content by liking and subscribing. It all helps support creating dynamic new operas for you. So, here we go. Thanks so much for coming today to chat a little bit about the world and I Can't Breathe and opera. I'm really pleased to have you both here, and you're both very esteemed artists, and I'd like to take just a second to set it up. Darren, you are a 3-time Canadian Screen Award winner and International Film Music Critics Association Award nominee with over 100 compositions credits. That's pretty incredible. You're a Canadian who has been willfully extracted to the land of many opportunities in Los Angeles, and have been involved in such things.
He's a traitor.
One of Canada's best exports is talent. And has worked on even Canada's hockey theme for TSN. Pretty cool resume of things. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. And both of you, I think, what's interesting to me is both of you have such a interesting combination of live performing arts and film and TV, and that's something that I find is kind of rare. People crossing over from both worlds. And Andrew, of course, you are an actor, director, writer, born in Ottawa. Working again in film, in theater. You're a producer as well, it seems. A Door Award winner. This is a pretty fun group of people. So
I haven't won as many awards as Darren yet, but I'm working on
it. It's not the total amount. You just need to be able to 3 times. Sounds pretty good.
Yeah, I know, right? It sounds great.
Yeah. So we're here today to kind of talk about this crazy intersection that is happening more and more between opera and pop culture, or opera and culture and politics. And there's this beautiful piece, provocative piece that you guys worked on called I Can't Breathe. And I wonder if you could just tell me a bit, like, how did it get started? Where did you find the inspiration for this? Yeah, maybe we'll start there with you, Andrew.
No, let's start with Darren.
Well, Andrew and I met actually at a Tapestry event. Gosh, over 10, like probably like
no.
A certain time ago.
It was a while ago.
And we sort of hit it off, but we'd started, and then we just kind of never got really onto something. And I always wanted to work with Andrew on something, and pandemic hits, and Canada Council has these digital originals that we have. So you apply and you get $5,000, a little grant to make something happen. And this is also at the time of all the race riots and George Floyd, and my wife is from Ghana. She's African, and so we have a boy who really, he's Black, and in LA there were a whole bunch of riots going on and everything. And one day we're driving up to the beach, and we're trying to explain to our son what was going on, and it just it was actually surprisingly easy conversation, but it kind of got me thinking about, like, what's it going to be like when we, just as a father to a son, when you're just trying to, your paternal instinct is to protect your kid, and but also the kid wants to go out and see the world, do good in the world, and sort of that that intersection within the context we are today. So I thought, well, hey, we call Andrew, and I called Andrew, and he said, hey, that's a great idea. And we just kind of, this is something that, I think we were both fortunate enough that we were fairly busy during the pandemic, and we kind of bunted it back and forth a little bit. And I'll let kind of Andrew talk a little bit about the libretto and where it came from.
When Darren first talked to me about this idea and approached me about this, I was just like, I loved it. And I know that Darren is a father of a son, but I've got two daughters, but I still feel the same way. I just feel like there's something that we have to communicate to our children about the world, and the way like the way that Darren wanted to approach the story as a father talking to a son, I absolutely identified with, because of course, like, I have two daughters, but I'm the son of a father. So I know that relationship and I know that feeling. I now have a greater respect for my dad than I did when I was a teenager. Like, and I told him too, and I got on my, like, I groveled. I went to my dad one day and just like, okay, I love you, and yes, you were freaking right. Yes, you were right. When I was a teenager, I get it, but you only learn that later on in your 20s. And I remember that feeling. I totally remember that. So I was like, oh, so if I was a teenager right now during George Floyd's death and during what's happening right now, I completely understand what Darren was proposing. Just this idea of just you just want change and you want it now. And as a matter of fact, you're looking at these old people like your dad thinking your world is dying, your world is dead, and we're taking over, and this is the new world. And you don't listen necessarily to your parents when they communicate to you, but you learn later on in life that your parents had some wisdom. And so I love that aspect of it. I love that. And then when Darren showed me the music, I was just like, oh, it's so gorgeous. Ah.
I think it's one of those crazy things where each generation lives through their own traumas, and yet I remember thinking about my parents, and you kind of think they're pretty vanilla. They've always been upholding discipline and do the right thing, and you never know whether or not they've actually lived interesting, crazy lives like we think we're living when we're teenagers. And that's as you say, that's that lesson that takes time. But considering that, like, can you set up the scene? Like, who are the characters in this, and what's going on with them?
Like it's like it's a father and a son. So the situation is that George Floyd has been murdered, and the son wants to go out to protest George Floyd's murder, and yet we are living in a pandemic. So there's a virus that is killing people, and the father says, I know you want to protest, I know you want to go out there. At the same time, you have to be careful, and you have to think of other things, and so that's the crux of the story. The story is a son and a father in conflict about how best to protest injustice that's happening.
It's interesting. I remember when we were kind of haggling through the libretto again, and there's a line there that I was like, really, like, it's like, and I think I don't want to speak to you anymore. Like, I don't want to talk to you anymore, right? Like, I kind of went like, that's a little harsh. Like, really, would a teenager really say that to their parent? And Andrew was like, my daughter says that to me all the time, like, all the time. And I go, okay, all right. Well,
just yesterday. Yeah, just yesterday. Absolutely. Yeah.
But I think, and Jesse had a full circle. I remember again, like, living here in LA, and there were riots going in, and they had imposed curfews and all that. And I had talked to my wife about, do we want to bring? I would like to bring Andrew to a protest to see what it is. And at the time he was 6, right? And I just want him to see it and to understand it. But then my wife is also a physician, and she's like, "There's no way in hell you're bringing out my son in a big crowd with this virus, right?" And so all of these, I think that it's almost it's not so much about it's not so much about race as about parenting, right? It's about the struggles and the relationship that you have with your parents. My dog just made an entrance into my studio, so hopefully he'll behave. So
Oh,
Yeah, but there's, I mean, it's interesting because there's also that thing in the generational. It's about parenting, but parents have learned how to be careful by being brash as younger people, and but there's still a place for people who want to make change now, and I think that's like, if we can't have our kids be as careful as we are as adults,
yeah.
um, but but there's like, how do you pass on just the right amount of experience and caution, and
Well, and that's kind of what that's kind of what the opera is about. It's about that struggle with a father who is trying his best to communicate to his son, I understand your rage, I understand your pain, but there are certain truths, there's certain realities. First off, there's a pandemic, so if you go outside, there's a risk. And we've been dealing with this for over 2 years now. Everybody's frustrated, like everybody. Like I'm a very leftist person, so I'm on left wing, and I know that I'm very critical of people on the right or whatever. But like the people on the right who are frustrated, I'm just like, you think we're not frustrated? Like there are people on the right who are just like, oh, you lefties, blah blah blah, Fauci, blah blah blah. It's like, dude, like it's not like Fauci's my best friend.
that's a great intro. Why don't we take a look at why don't we all turn our eyes towards this beautiful thing that you guys did? Anything else we need to know before we press play?
Darren?
I think something that's really interesting that what you're gonna see, I think it was take 10, but it was all one shot, no editing. And it was just it was one of those really magical moments that you kind of, I was conducting off screen, and you kind of pause and you put your hands on, and we all kind of look at each other, and we all kind of knew, like, hey, I think that was, I think we got it. It's pretty special. Like, it's pretty special considering all that. I mean, I'll tell you about the funny arguments that Andrew and I got when he said, "I want to do this in one shot." I go, like, "We don't have enough money for one shot."
Oh, but we do. Oh yeah, we do.
If you do it right, it's not about the money. Cool. Okay, this is great. So here we go. This is I Can't Breathe, libretto by Andrew Moodie, composed by Darren Fung.
Get out of my way!
Will we just talk? Will you listen?
No, you're not going to stop me!
Please, just give me a minute.
I don't care. I don't want to speak to you again!
I know you're hurt. I understand your rage. Rodney King, LA burning, I felt the white-hot rage at the pit of my soul. We marched, we fought, we We stood in the rain and shouted at the flowers.
Silence me.
No, 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 my son, my dear son, be mad. Change the world to things I couldn't. But things are different.
How are they different?
It's not safe to be outside in a crowd.
The virus.
Your mother and
I will be safe.
We're older.
I can't breathe.
I
That's
know.
what he said to them.
I know.
I can't breathe.
I know.
I can't breathe.
I know.
He was begging
I
them.
know.
Begging.
I know.
They strangled George Floyd to death. Fighting for his mother.
I burst
That
into
means
tears.
something to
To change the world.
Nothing is going to change
You're
unless
still
we make a change. Now
You
leave me
don't
alone.
realize
But
that these
I
things take time.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
It's funny, Oh, go ahead, guys. I feel like I don't know. I got some tingles there.
I was going to say we have some incredible performers and incredible musicians working that day.
Absolutely, and I think just what's amazing is how quickly this came together as a performance. We had a blocking rehearsal the night before, and we'd spent basically a day in the Tapestry studios, and that was it. And again, I think it was take 10, and it was just boom, we got it, and it was incredible. Just some chills, some goosebumps.
I mean, this is one of my questions for you. I think we kind of just answered a little bit. Is one that I hear a lot from folks when I tell them about what we do, which is why would you choose opera instead of film or theater or any other medium? What is it that opera does that can tell a contemporary story like this differently in a better way?
It reminds me what the when I did Lib Lab many moons ago, and was Wayne Strongman would say that I think it's so true that there's this heightened sense of emotion with opera. Like he would say that the emotions are so high, the stakes are so high in opera that the only thing you can do to properly convey these emotions is by singing it, right? And I think that really for a scene like this, that really sums it up. It's like the stakes are high, the emotions are there, and that natural building crescendo that just goes and gets you there. And I just don't think it would be the same thing if that was theater or if that was film. It's just not the same.
I agree, and because I started off my career in Shakespeare, so there's just there's a certain emotional power that comes with that heightened performance that can't it can't be replaced by anything. At the same time, I have there are so many Black actors who I have worked with, who I've hired, who I have acted with, who told me in the dressing room, oh yeah, and I also sing opera. And I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah, no, I'm an opera singer too. I'm like, because I know, because here's the thing, like I started off my career doing singing and musicals and stuff, and I know the training that you need to be an opera singer is huge. Like it's huge. And I've got family friends. There's this one person who's a very good friend of the family who's a well-renowned like opera singer, and she travels across the world to sing opera and stuff like that. And she's a woman of color. And like literally, like, you know, she like the last time we were hanging out, she was just like, oh yeah, I was in the Arab Emirates, and you know, to get from the taxi to the hotel, I had a male escort or whatever, but you know, but they really want to hear opera and they wanted me to sing it. I was just like, that's amazing. However, the people of color who perform opera are not, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, I don't think they're properly represented on the stages in opera in Canada. So the thing that excited me the most about this project are the two artists that we have, and the three artists, like also to the musician that we had playing piano, who was beautiful.
That was Morgan, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
Morgan
she's
was
incredible.
fantastic. Yeah. Oh my God. And but there are also many artists of color who are trained in opera and are good, who are really good. And I just want to see more of their work. So the anything I can do to help, you know, spread the word, to proselytize the works of people of color in opera, I will do that, because there are so many people in this country and so few opportunities, and it's also cutthroat. Like even if you're just a white person, it's cutthroat. It's hard. Like from what I've heard, it's just like it's brutally cutthroat. So to add to that color and race and gender preference and gender identity and all that stuff, it becomes difficult.
Well, I mean, there's something interesting in that, in the scarcity of opportunities for artists and the scarcity of stories and representation on stage that represents what Canada looks like now. I kind of think, you know, there's this crazy statistic that Opera America's tracked that it's over almost 25 years, all of the major opera companies are losing audiences every year, and yet over those same 25 years, all of the cities where those opera companies are have grown exponentially. And how do you put those two things together? And I think that you kind of just talked about one of the answers is there's this thing that can happen that could be really exciting and dynamic for the art form, is we tell stories from more perspectives. We showcase different artists on stage that resonate in a better way with the public where those cities are. And then the public for that art form grows. You know, if you see yourself excluded, you're not invited or interested in being in a certain place. You know, there's lots of super fans for classical music, but it's about how do we bring in new people that becomes an interesting question. And I think pieces like this, for me, like I agree with both of you, that the thing that thrilled me when I was listening to it is just the register of the voices when you're thinking through the kind of trauma and you know, emotional experience that two people that like love each other, a son and a father, but of course they're going to have their intergenerational tension, but they're bringing that to a level that I didn't experience until I heard the singing there, and it that completed the whole process for me. And I think that's something that people don't think about when if you approach the average person on the street and say, what do you think about opera? They're, well, you know, feed you a couple of stereotypes about tuxes and gowns and Italian music, but that's not the exciting part. The exciting part is this: what happens when the voice hits the register in the right part of the drama, you know, the dramaturgy, the story, and then all of a sudden you're in there emotionally, and it kind of bypasses your brain and goes right to your heart.
You know, it's really interesting because Andrew, the baritone who plays the dad, who also works with Tapestry. I remember when we were kind of, ideating this, just kind of going through the ideation process here. And I came across a blog post he had written about the tragic killing of another unarmed Black man, and then how it translated into in being underrepresented in the opera world. And I didn't reach out to Andrew at the time because I wanted to make sure I had an opera for him to sing. But by the way, I have this part, but I have to say, reading Andrew's blog post really kind of put me on this, like, this is what we need to do. I remember the very first opera that I went to as a child. My piano teacher had given me tickets to the Magic Flute, and I was kind of like, I think I was, I don't know, 12 or 13, and I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, but I remember being blown away by it, because just loving the music and loving the drama. But on the other hand, I see how the minute that something becomes relevant to you, when you can see yourself on stage, when you can see those characters, those roles, and especially I think for young people who can relate to what's going on, it automatically just becomes that much more special, that much more magical. I did way back when, after I did Lib Lab with Wayne, had taken a whole group of Tapestry people to Montreal. At the time, one of the Tapestry sponsors was Aeroplan, right? And so they did this little workshop with Aeroplan, and Colleen Murphy and I had 24 hours, not even, like, we had 12 hours, I think, to come up with these, like, at risk of sounding a little bit commercially crass, but coming up with an Aeroplan moment, right? That we
Right.
like, opera. And so each of the people, each of the employees at the retreat put a moment down on a sheet of paper, and it was about something unique that happened to them in the company. And the one that resonated with Colleen and I was, I think it was in the Vancouver office, one of their colleagues had passed away, and they were just impressed at how everyone in the office came together to support each other. So within 12 hours, we came up with this this little scene, a little opera brief sort of thing, a la Lib Lab style. And I can tell you, Michael, like, I've never quite received a standing ovation quite like that, because the relevance of that, right? When people can see themselves on stage is just, and I think, we talk about how do we make opera more relevant to people. I think we have to get it so that it's a proper representation of the communities that we live in, and hopefully, I Can't Breathe is hopefully one small step towards that.
There are many cultures all over the world who have had musical forms centuries before opera was created. So Sanskrit drama was created in 2000 BCE. Japanese no theater was created many centuries ago. Like, there are so many cultures across the world whose culture, they created their own styles of musical expression that opera should be open to, and recognize, and that there's a certain Eurocentricity to opera, which I get, I understand it, and there's nothing, and I love my Shakespeare. I love Shakespeare, so don't get me wrong. Like, there's nothing wrong with Eurocentric artists, but that doesn't mean that you can't open up the art form to other cultures. That's all. So,
Well, you could argue that where opera started was actually, like, Greece is one of the inspirations for the original operas that were written in Italy, and it's a place where Africa and like Middle East and all of these other places were coming together with trade, and intercultural exchange. And then if you look at how it goes from country to country in Europe, it's always been an omnivorous creature that grew because of intercultural influences in a cool way until North America.
yeah,
when we were colonized, and then basically we're just I think for a while at least, trying to feel like we're as developed as Europe. And so it just became let's repeat what was done as opposed to look at the possibilities of what could be done. And I don't know, I think about the Viennese schools and how Vienna has in the heart of Vienna has these 5 points on the star, and they each pointed towards a different kingdom that was part of the empire.
Right.
And how, like, people say Mozart is like a Austrian composer, but I'm like, no, he soaked in everything from Hungary and Prussia and Italy and all France and all these places he toured as a kid. And so Mozart was one of the first multicultural composers, like where you're taking all these influences. And what city right now, or what cities, I guess, are places where we have all of these influences, all of these cultural things coming together.
And opera is big enough to absorb everything.
Absolutely. And it makes me sad every time I mention opera to someone, and then they look at me like, oh, that must be some exclusive champagne swilling thing that you do that's completely disconnected from like the heart of our community. I'm like, no, it's an art form that has space.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So, I mean, you guys both work in film. For you, like what could opera learn from film is a question I've got. The thing that I think they have in common from a writer's point of view is less text for more storytelling.
It's almost like creating a haiku. It's like you have to just become so efficient with text. And so and the same thing with film. It's like, trust, like, especially I'm shooting a film in March, and that's been the big thing. It's just like, like, you have to make sure that you have to realize that there's so much more power you can get from less. And it's just something you have to sort of really get in your head. Like, you can do actually so much more, but with less. If you know what I mean by that, you know what I mean? It's like to really crystallize the words that you're putting together so that something's communicated that's very powerful. So that's like I would say that I wouldn't say that opera necessarily could learn from film, but I would say absolutely that there are things that opera and film share, because opera is more ancient than film. And to be honest, there are things that film could learn from opera. Oh, what? Yeah, anyway, because I find that film people are just very like, I'm just working with a lot of film people right now, and there's like going on and on about film history, and I'm just like, I come from theater, so I'm just like, oh, that's so adorable that you're referencing something that happened 100 years ago. Oh, that's cute. That's great. Dude, I'm not even going to talk to you about, like, kabuki theater or anything, like, because that's centuries old, or African theater or whatever. It's like, you know what? We'll let you. Yeah. You just invented this. Oh, cool. Well, having a character reference the audience directly, that's new to you. Cool. Wow. Good for you. Anyway.
But just to kind of add on to what Andrew said, if there's anything, I think what film could learn from opera, I think the collaboration, at least from a composing standpoint, is very different. Whereas in composing, you're always kind of you're beholden to a decision maker that's not you, right? You're not part of you're not part of the so it's not that you're not part of the decision making team, but you definitely don't have the final say. Someone can say, I don't like it, do it again, and off you go and you do it again. Working with Andrew, and working with the libretto is a true collaboration, right? Because that, the libretto that I get, there are little things that, like, that just doesn't work there, or that sounds clunky there. And I think that, the process of workshopping it too, right? We did a quick little workshop of this, an hour one day. We were laughing about this before the call, but Andrew was on his way back from New York, dropping his daughter off at college, and I was here in LA, and we were doing this whole Zoom workshop. But it's amazing how just hearing these things and the collaboration, how we're asking the singers, we're asking, the collaborative pianist, like, what are your thoughts? Does this work for you? Does that not work you let me understand and what your thoughts are when you're writing this, like all that sort of stuff. And you don't see that, at least, my experience in film, you don't see that level of collaboration, right? And then, the other stark opposite is that, just writing concert music, right? There's no collaboration. It's like what you says, what you write goes. And I find that I thrive with the collaboration. I find it more meaningful, more fulfilling artistically, to
Me too.
collaborate and to be able to do something good. So.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think film could really learn from, like, also, I know film people are going to roll their eyes when I say this, but I really wish that they would listen. But the thing that I really love about opera is that they take the craft of creating the art form of marrying. They take it seriously. They take it so seriously. It's like it's so. In film, people hate writers. They hate them. Like they don't like writers. They don't like screenwriters. They don't like creators. They don't like musicians. They like money, right? And I get that. It's not like I don't understand it. I get it. You make money, you get to make another movie. I get it totally. However, there's a certain thing that happens in the world of opera where we really truly treat the creation of something as being quite sacred that I think is important. I just really do. And if we can marry the creation of something as being sacred with making money, then that's great too. Because also opera had to make money too. Like, here's the thing: before movies, there was opera, there was theater, there was all this stuff. So it's not like, like when Mozart didn't make money on a show, that was a deal, right? Yeah. So he was really, really talented, and he was like the Magic Flute was this gorgeous piece of work. At the same time, when it was first produced, like there were business issues that happened with the first production of the Magic Flute. So like we get it. Like in opera, like it's not like people in opera don't understand that it's a business. Like totally. And people in opera, we were there first. Thank you, film people. We were like centuries ago. Like we were there first. But at the same time, even centuries ago, there was this understanding that what we are creating is really quite sacred and quite beautiful. And just if you can aim your heart towards creating something that's sacred and true and beautiful, then that's a good thing.
So I've got a question for both of you then, which is kind of, so this is a beautiful piece. It's a 5-minute piece, and I think it really sort of taps right into the veins of our collective hearts in this last couple of years. My question is, because we've talked a little bit about what the possible future of opera could be if it had more representation, maybe different musical influences, a kind of way of embracing all that's possible, what would you love to see or create? Like what would be a perfect scenario for the opera that we could own, that Canada or Toronto or New York, that our generation could say, no, that's our art form? What would be like an example or something that would make it so much like that in the way that people talk about film?
Oh, I wish you gave these questions in advance.
No, I'm good to go. Like, Darren, would you like me to go first?
Yes.
If you just open your ears to the young artists out there who are in schools right now or studying or just graduated from schools and do something crazy that you just didn't really anticipate or expect or understand, and just really try to open yourself up to them, then that's the future. That's the future of every art form, whether it's opera, whether it's traditional, like straight theater, whether it's film, whether it's music, whether it's pop, whether rock and roll, whether it's like there's so many different art forms where it's just like you when you open yourself up to the young artists right now who are coming up, and they're just inspired by something, and they're driven by something, and they're excited by something. If you say, oh my God, you're excited, that's great. If we just open ourselves up to them and just say, show us what you're excited about. And there are going to be times when a young artist is going to do something and we're just going to be like, that's not what I was grown to believe that the art form is. But if you just open yourself up and just go, you know what, but let's just hear this and let's just open ourselves up to what their possibilities are, then opera will be fine.
It makes me think about a conversation between a father and a son. There's
nice.
There's the things
I saw what you did there. Nice.
There's the things that we know, and then there's like, if there's a great energy in the younger generation to do something, like we can't force them to know everything we know. There has to be some space and allowance and resources to create their own, to take what we have taught them and take it to the next place.
And also, I am a traditionalist a little bit, so there's certain like opera artists and European artists that I really love. But then I was going on and on about Wagner, and then a Jewish friend of mine said, yeah, but he was an anti-Semite, right? And I'm just like, oh yeah, like there are certain things that we hold on to the past. It's just like, there are times when we can let it go. It's okay. Wagner's going to be fine. Like Wagner's been performed in Israel. Like it's not like it's like there are horrific things about Wagner, and his influence and and what his art has done, or what the people who appreciate his art have done. At the same time, yes, if you're just looking at the pure beauty of the music, yes, of course, you will see a kind of genius. At the same time, it's okay to let go of an anti-Semite. it's okay. Well, it's okay to say, we can move on from Wagner. We can. It's okay.
And our generation has enough talent and inspiration to provide the next Mozart's, Wagner's, Copland's. Like that's the thing that, like, I don't see a lack of intelligence and creativity and inspiration out there. It's there. They're just not always invited to opera, which is something that gets me. I put out a post once because we were collaborating with a punk band in Toronto called Fucked Up, and I was like, what opera singers have ever sung metal or punk? And I got like 20 responses, and I was astonished because so many people think, oh, if you're an opera singer, you went through this kind of a upbringing, you're middle class and you had all of these supports and you must only love classical music. And no, of course, they're as interesting and diverse and multifaceted participants in our contemporary culture as anybody.
Oh, this is what happened to me when I'm like in the cast of a show, and I turn to this other fellow Black artist and I say, oh, so tell me about yourself. It's like, well, I just finished studying opera at the whatever. I'm like, and you're doing Shakespeare now. It's like, yeah. Because opera singers can perform Shakespeare, dude. Like we can do a lot of things, it's like, and so it's the same kind of thing. You just kind of go, oh, great. So yeah, of course you can be in a punk band. You can be like, you can perform Shakespeare. You can do like anything. So I'm just agreeing with you. I'm just like, I'm emphatically saying to you, yes, absolutely. Like, I think that, there are so many young people now who are embracing this art form that started in Europe and started a long time ago. And some of the artists in opera are amazing, and some of them are amazing but questionable. And God,
I know some of both.
And yeah, exactly. Same thing in theater. As in Shakespeare and stuff. So, but ultimately, like, there's a whole new vista. There's a whole new world in the future that are going to be created by young people that we just can't see, and we just have to foster it. If that makes sense.
Amen. No, 100%. I agree with that.
Two things there that I think that I would say. The first, I think that what we see and hear on stage, people have to be able to relate to them. We can't tell the same old stories again. We have to, people have to, we talked a fair bit about this. People have to see themselves. They have to be able to relate to the people and the stories that we see. I think that's the first thing. The second thing, I think that we have to eliminate the barriers to being an audience. The traditional barriers of the opera hall, the concert hall, whether that be ticket prices, whether it be the hierarchy of the concert hall. I love the idea of doing operas in bars, or bringing operas to school, or filming opera, or doing that thing. And I think that the notion that the reason we've allowed it to become this stuffy, crusty, champagne fluting kind of high cultural thing. And if you want this art form to survive, it can't exist just within that realm. We've got to go out, we've got to go into the communities, and people they have to experience it. And I think once you do that, I think between those two things, that's how opera will become the next film, the next great medium.
Back in Mozart's day, it was television. Like, it's hard to understand, but like,
yeah,
going to
it was
like,
the spectacle.
Yeah, it was like, there was something happening during the evening, and then you would leave your house to see it, but like you would be entertained, and it was low and high. So there would be the groundlings who would pay a little money or whatever, and they would get the low jokes, and Mozart loved his low jokes. But
you should read his letters. Yeah,
exactly. A little too much for my taste, but whatever. But also be entertainment for there'd be higher entertainment as well, and it'd be entertainment for everybody. And so I'm just emphatically agreeing with you, Darren, just to say, like,
yeah,
if we can lower the cost of admission and also find ways to speak to people now. The problem with places like Stratford and Shawn and stuff like that is, like, yes, it is great to celebrate the works of these great artists from the past. At the same time, it's really important to realize that Shakespeare at the time was a modern playwright. Like, when he was alive, he was doing stuff that was modern and revolutionary and crazy. And there were playwrights during Shakespeare's day, like Ben Jonson was sent to jail for the play Isle of Dogs. You can't read the play The Isle of Dogs because it was torn up and shredded by the Queen, because she was just like, you're lucky to be alive. You say that again and you're dead. So, like, there were playwrights at the time saying stuff that was pushing boundaries, and we forget that about when we look back at Shakespeare. We just see it as being this traditional thing, and we see. And the same thing with Mozart, same thing with a lot of opera artists. We just look at it as being like, this traditionalist, conservative thing. But at the time, Mozart was on the cutting edge. So it's just like, we just have to realize that we just have to make that space again now. And then 500 years from now, someone's going to go, oh my God, Darren Fung, you knew, like, oh my God, it's crazy.
But this is it. I think that's it exactly, is that all historical creators were doing stuff that was revolutionary. That's why we remember them, not because they sounded like Scarlatti or they sounded like someone who'd come before. Rather, it's because they did something different that caught on because it was engaging and resonant with the culture. And so if we're not doing that, it's a huge disservice to the art form. Like,
thank you. Exactly. Thank you. That's actually, you've crystallized it in a way that I couldn't possibly, and that's, we're doing a disservice to the art form. Absolutely.
Well, you're not. With this piece, you're doing a great service to the art form. And I'm curious, do we have a couple minutes, but do you see this going anywhere? Is this something that could be a seed that grows into a bigger piece? Is it something you want to make? Like, how do you want to make this available? This is a bit of a preview because it hasn't been released publicly.
I don't know, Michael. You tell us.
I know. That's a very good question, Michael.
I have absolutely some influence on some things in life.
I'm teasing.
But
I'm teasing.
My family tells
But
me
no,
otherwise.
but you know what? Like, honestly, I do. I've already told Darren, like, I would love to send this film out to festivals and because I think it would be a great piece of theater, but also I do think that it's a great film, and I'm glad Darren did the work to get the grant money from Canada Council, and I think that we've created something that we can all be proud of. And so yeah. So the future of it is just to get it out to people and to get it out so that people can see it.
I think the big question for, and I think when I approached Andrew with this project, I think this is sort of intended to be a calling card of what might be, what exploring the possibilities. And I think the next step is to see, can we explore some more? Let's do we expand it? What can we do to expand it just to an act, to expand it to a full length, and take a look at story and kind of playing a little bit in the sandbox. It takes a surprising amount to produce a 3-minute opera.
Yeah.
So,
Well, film. You got to say opera and film. It's not just a, yeah.
And kind of the next step is I think to step back and to see story-wise. We have these two very strong characters, and to see what can we do. What stories can we tell with these two characters? Because I think there's a world of opportunity out there, and I think the opportunity to be relevant, and especially right now in this day and age, there's a lot of opportunity there.
I was gonna say, I for one think this is a great piece of the puzzle, and that there's a lot of people out there who would be surprised and super engaged by this, because it would reflect them, and because they would be surprised by that thing that opera can do, for putting you right in that person's spot, in that place, in that emotional reality. So thank you so much for coming on today for our kind of first podcast relating to great work that's going on outside in the world. And stay tuned. We'll definitely link to the work in all of the places where this appears, and to your respective fantastic work that you're doing outside of this. Anything that we can look for you both in the near future?
On a new feature film, Chinese Canadian feature film, production-wise, out of China, shooting in Winnipeg, all places in the wintertime right now. So God help me, unspoken, which is really exciting for me. So that's the next project up there. In April, conducting the Kitchener-Waterloo Symphony with the production of Equus in Concert. So one of the documentaries that I won one of the statues there for. We're presenting that live in concert with picture and narration. So that's exciting.
Oh, cool.
That's wonderful.
Well, yeah, if you're in Toronto, you got to come and say hi.
Absolutely.
And Andrew,
Absolutely.
I know you have something coming up in March.
That's right. I'm directing a film version of a play, and there'll be more information on that soon. It's like, over the pandemic, I think that a lot of theater practitioners are just like, wait a second. So if we film this and we put this out, then actually it can get out to a lot more people for a longer period of time. And it's, and I would just encourage that. So I'm working on this company that's going to be like producing Canadian plays and filming them and then putting them out there on digital media, because it's something that we learned over the pandemic. Like before the pandemic, I brought it up and people were like, no, you can't do that. That's terrible. What? You can't. But then, Now equity is finally sort of given in and realized that it's actually okay, and they're not going to die.
So there's
And,
something opera can learn from film, is how to reach more people.
Exactly. And you know what? That's actually a really good point. Like, I think that, to be honest, even more than Hollywood, like for opera to film itself and record itself and then distribute itself digitally throughout the world, I'm telling you, like, it just reaches so many people.
And
And
any spoilers on the name of the show or name of the company so we can keep our eyes on it?
You know what? You'll find out. You'll
All
see.
right. You'll have to follow Andrew Moodie on all of the channels in order to get the lowdown. Thank you so much, both of you, for this conversation. It's been actually a lot of fun. And I feel like I know you a bit better, and I hope to meet you in person when we're back to a little bit more of the reels again.
Right. It'll happen. It will happen.
It will. It will. Cool. Well, best of luck for your upcoming thing. Sorry, go ahead, Darren.
Thank you to Tapestry for all the support. You know, it definitely for you guys' support.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Tapestry, so much.
Happy to help make cool things like this happen when we can. All right. Amazing. Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel. It all helps support creating dynamic new operas. See you next time.